I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission of the Village of Bartlett, Counties of Cook, DuPage, and Kane. Please call the roll.
Bob Picaro,
Yes. Here.
Charlie DeVoe,
Here.
Julie Kapatukakis, George Koziel,
Here.
Tom Yasso,
Here.
Michelle Sarwaz,
Here.
John Batterman,
Here.
Mike Reardon.
Here. You have before you the minutes from the March 7th, 2024 meeting. Chair will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Bob, seconded by George. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Charlie DeVoe,
Yes.
Julie Kapatukakis,
Yes.
George Koziel,
Yes.
John Miasso,
Yes.
Michelle Sarwaz,
Yes.
Bob Picaro,
Yes.
John Batterman,
Yes.
Mike Reardon.
Yes. The next item is the public forum. This gives anyone a chance to address the board about anything that is not on tonight's agenda. Does anybody have anything to bring up? If not, we shall move on to the agenda items. First item is case number 24-05, Shelby's at 867 Route 59. Are the petitioners here? Please come up to the microphone. You're the only one speaking? Okay. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm that the evidence you are about to give is only the whole truth? Do we have the evidence of the mailings, the newspaper, and the picture of the sign?
Yes, we do.
Mark those exhibits A, B, and C. Go ahead and present your case. Your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Bob Klinke. Address is 947 Monroe in River Forest. I'm the CFO of the company and largely the director of construction. The special use we're seeking is really just to move our current location 300 feet down the street in the same center. We've come to an agreement with the landlord to move to that space. He, I believe, has a tenant for our current space, and we're just seeking to be able to move down the street.
Okay. Were there any phone calls, staff, or emails or anything regarding this?
There was not.
So when is the intended move date?
We would probably start construction around May 1st, and to be done as quickly as possible. I think we'd be in there, on paper by 4th of July.
So essentially, we're being asked to grant a special use permit for serving beer and wine to maintain what you already have at the
Correct.
larger location. Any questions from the board? At this point, I shall open it up to the public. If you intend to speak tonight, please grab one of the forms off the back table and have it filled out. Turn it in to one of the staff, and they will call you up. Nobody intends to speak? Any discussion or motions?
What are you going to do about the sign? Your sign will just move down?
It will if it fits within the specs of the village. If we have to get a smaller sign, we'll get a smaller sign.
Okay. Yeah, that's all I got.
Anything else? Any motions or further discussion?
So I make a motion, we approve Shelby's 24-5 for special use liquor license.
There's a motion on the floor, so I shall close the public hearing. Seconded by John Miazzo. Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Charlie DeVoe,
Yeah.
Julie Kapatukakis,
Yes.
George Koziel,
Yes.
John Miasso,
Yes.
Michelle Sarwaz,
Yes.
Bob Picaro,
Yes.
John Batterman,
Yes.
Mike Reardon.
Yes. Okay, stay in touch with Kim or Christie? Andrew, with Andrew, sorry about that, to find out when it appears on the village board. Okay? Next item on the agenda, case number 24-06, Packing by Design at 1250 Hart Circle. Are the petitioners present? Please come up to the microphone. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm that the evidence you're about to give is only the whole truth?
Yes.
Do we have the exhibits, the mailings, the newspaper, the picture of the sign?
We do.
Mark those exhibits A, B, and C. Go ahead and state your name and address for the record, and then present your case.
Cara Skirdo, 425 North Martingale Road in Schaumburg. We applied for a variance due to the building footings encroaching within the 40-foot setbacks. The building itself, the precast wall panels are within those setbacks. Only the footings are encroaching.
Oh. So the walls are not?
No.
Correct. The building code permits a foundation to encroach up to 6 inches into the front setback. However, because this is greater than 6 inches, they had to apply for the variance.
Right. When I read that in the package and I went out there, I was expecting to see footings and hear the building's up, I thought. So it's a little unusual that the building got this far in production before we caught it, right?
The geometry plan was approved in August of 2023. That was approved for build. They went out, looked at it. They were required to submit the spot survey, and the spot survey showed that the footing was encroaching.
Okay. And did we get any complaints or inquiries by phone or email?
We did not.
Okay. Any,
So the 2023 geometry plan, because of the curvature of the street and the way the building is set, I mean, I know it's a small amount that it's off, but why wasn't it caught in 2023?
That was not on their geometry plan in 2023. When they poured the footing, they had the spot survey done once the footing was poured. And that showed the accurate dimensions of the footing that was poured.
The original plan showed them meeting the 40-foot setback.
I think this is one of these things where fortunately there aren't a lot of neighbors out there to complain about what happened. And it is a little unusual configuration of the streetscape around there. Probably tried to get as much building as you could on the space available. So I prefer to look at it as an honest mistake and not some deliberate thing. Any other comments from the board or motion? At this point, we'll open it up to the public hearing then, if anybody has any comments in the audience or questions. Chair will entertain a motion or further discussion.
I would make a motion to pass on a recommendation to approve case 2406.
Second.
Okay, it's moved by Michelle. At this point, we'll close the public hearing, seconded by John. Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Julie Kapodakis. George Koziel.
Yes.
John Miasso.
Yes.
Michelle Sarwaz.
Yes.
Bob Bacaro.
Yes,
John Batterman.
Yes.
Charlie DeVoe.
Yes.
Mike Weirden.
Yes. Okay, we shall pass on a positive recommendation to the board. Stay in touch with Andrew to find out when it appears on the village board agenda. Next item on the agenda is case number 23-10, Maryville, southwest corner, West Bartlett Road and South Devon Avenue. Are the petitioners present? If you intend to speak, please raise your right hand.
I'm the lawyer. I'll be glad to do it, though, if you want me to do it.
Okay, do you solemnly affirm that the evidence you're about to give is only the whole truth?
Absolutely.
Okay. Do we have the mailings, the newspaper, the picture of the sign? We do. Mark those exhibits A, B, and C. Go ahead and state your name and address for the case, and then present it.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is John George. I'm an attorney with offices at 71 South Wacker. I'm here with my colleague, Man Ali. We both represent Maryville Academy. What we are appearing on before you tonight is our request for a special use for the property at 775 Bartlett Road. This is a project where we're taking an existing building, which is there right now, as depicted on the screen right now, and what we're proposing to do is to have 6 young women live in here, ages 18 to 21, and they would, we have a we have on, and I'll have call as a witness the person who did the design for the building so that she can explain all of the interior renovations to it. This particular property is a 12.7 acre piece of property, which is part of the Immaculata Plan development. Our property is in sub-area C. That little white portion up on the very top is the project that we're talking about. It's on the west, on the south, on the north is Bartlett Road. On the east is Devon, and to the south of us is Caroline Road. Caroline Road, of course, will now, that's a dedicated road that we will be making as part of this project. But that's the site in question. As I say, what we're seeking to do, and this is another view of the building, standing on Bartlett Road looking south, and you can see the building. Is there another slide there? Yes, this is just another view, the northwest facade of the building, looking at the building. And this is looking to the east, down Bartlett Road. And this is one more view looking at the parking lot in front. I will have people from, I would like to be able to call tonight as Sister Kathy Ryan, who's the Executive Director of Maryville Academy, who will explain a little bit about Maryville and also the reason why they wanted to use this parcel of property for part of their program. I will also be calling Evelyn Smith, who is the Director of Residential Services, who will explain in detail the specifics of this community residence and how it will work, and all the specifics about it in terms of hours of operation, parking spaces, all the particular relevant information that you will need in viewing this. Also, I will be calling Mr. Sylvester Kerwin, who's an MAI appraiser who Maryville Academy has retained in this matter, and he will talk about he's done a report which I've tendered to your city, your village, which talks about the compatibility of this proposed use to other uses in the area and the fact that it does not create an adverse impact on any of the surrounding properties. Lastly, I'll be calling Jerry Kelly, who's the project architect, who will go through and explain in greater detail than I just did about the interior renovations to this building. There will be no exterior renovations at all. Everything that will be done here will be just to create these bedrooms for these young women that will be living here. With that, I don't know your procedure, Mr. Chairman, but I would like to be able to call the witnesses and have them, I'll have them go through the questions that I have for them, and at the end of all the witnesses, then we would stand ready to answer any of the questions that any of you might have concerning the project. Is that acceptable to you?
Yes.
Okay. I would like to first call Sister Kathy Ryan.
Hi. Please state your name and address for the record.
My home address?
You can use the business address, it doesn't matter.
My name is Sister Catherine Ryan. I'm the Executive Director of Maryville Academy, and our business address is 1150 North River Road in Des Plaines.
Okay.
Sister, can you tell me, what is your position with Maryville Academy?
I'm the Executive Director
And how long have you been associated with Maryville Academy?
for 20 years.
Okay. And does Maryville operate any other facilities in the village of Bartlett, Illinois?
Yes, we've been grateful to serve on the campus at 951 West Bartlett Road. It's just down the road from this particular site we're talking about tonight. And there, it's our girls' campus, so we have 6 homes there, and the homes serve our young ladies who come to us in need of temporary housing.
Can you please explain to the village board the programming that would be carried on here at this property at 775 Bartlett?
I'd be happy to. One of the programs that we have on the Bartlett, what we call it the Eisenberg campus, in gratitude to the George Eisenberg Foundation that helped Maryville originally establish the buildings there. So on this campus, one of the homes we have serves young ladies with cognitive delay. These young ladies were removed from their homes by the Department of Children and Family Services many years before because they were victims of abuse or neglect. So they are in need of continued care. Their legal custodian is DCFS. So we provide the care for them at the campus, and it should be until they become about 18.
Is it your position that this proposed project over here at 775 is needed for the continuing development of your program?
Yes, this would be a next phase program. Our young ladies complete what they need to learn in the group home setting, and that's what we have for them on the campus at 951 West Bartlett Road. And then they need to move to a more, to an opportunity for more independence in their residence. There would be 24/7 staff, but they would be taking on more responsibility for their own lives and learning more about interaction in the communities that they're going to be moving to when they reach 21. And so it is important for the girls to see that, to actually see and there be a difference between the group home setting that they have and the routine that we have in that program and what they're moving to as they advance toward young adulthood, ages 18 to 21.
Why is it that Maryville chose this particular site as a place for this continued mission?
Well, we were very happy to find a home. We've been looking for a home for them that would be separate from the campus. And we were very happy to find a home so close to the campus that we can call on the resources of the campus or use the campus for the young ladies, but also be separated. So it's right down the road, as you know.
And this is a 12.6-acre site. And you intend to do any other work on this site other than just use this existing building that's there and make interior renovations to that building?
No, we do not. We initially talked with the Sisters of St. Joseph of St. Francis, who own the property. They had also been involved in Clare Oaks, and they were very supportive of our purchasing the home for this ministry. We weren't planning to buy this entire piece of property. Then they came back to us and said it would help us out because they're no longer have their offices here in Illinois. They're at Stevens Point, Wisconsin. So it would be helpful to them if we would purchase the entire amount of property that you just discussed. But we have no program plans or other plans for the rest of that property.
Is it your understanding that if you ever wanted to do anything further with this property, other than what we're talking about tonight, which is providing a community residence for 6 girls, ages 18 to 21, if you were going to do anything more than that specifically, is it your understanding you would have to come back to the village and seek their approval to do whatever you anticipate?
Yes.
I have no further questions of Sister Kathy. Evelyn? Would you please state your full name and address?
Evelyn Smith. Work address is 951 West Bartlett Road.
And what is your position with Maryville Academy?
I am an Associate Executive Director at Maryville Academy.
And how long have you been involved with Maryville Academy?
33 years.
Okay. And can you please provide an overview of the residential services program that Maryville has?
The residential services that Maryville have on the Eisenberg campus are young ladies. It's an all-girls campus. We provide mental health services. We provide make sure they have schooling, they have individual group therapy. We take them out in the community. We have social skills group. We make sure that they have visits with families or fictive kids, all of those things, keeping them intact, making sure that they understand how to go and shop and purchase clothes, all of those types of services.
Can you explain to the board what it is that this building that's depicted up on the screen right now with this residential building, what that would be used for as part of your programming at Maryville Academy?
Okay. This would be considered a TLP program, and that's the purpose of a transitional living program for young ladies who turn 18, or they could be 19. Their next step to learn developmental skills, having jobs in the community. They will also be able to learn how to go in the kitchen and cook. Staff would monitor them until they get to the point where they can cook small meals on their own, because the hope for them to leave from this program is to go into a CILA where they can live for the rest of their life, where they would have to do all of those things on their own, where they will not have 24 staffing every day, all day.
Can you explain to the board exactly what a CILA is, C-I-L-A?
Okay, it's a community integrated living arrangement where they will live in a house with maybe 4, 5, or 6 other individuals.
And does Maryville have any of those CILAs already in existence?
No, Maryville don't.
Do other organizations such as your own have CILAs that they operate in various neighborhoods throughout the northwestern suburbs?
Yes, yes.
Now, getting back to the specific building, you indicated that there are going to be 6 girls, is that correct?
Correct.
And their ages would be 18 to 21, is that correct?
That's correct.
How many staff would be working at this building?
We will have 2 staff on at all times,
And would they be 24/7?
24/7.
And do you anticipate any visitors coming to this facility?
Not to this particular facility, because we would encourage the kids to have visits in the community. We would encourage the kids, if they can, to go and visit their family. And on our campus right down the road, we have a dedicated space where we call a family visitation room, where they can have one-on-one visits with their families and not be impeding on the other individuals in the home that they live in.
Would any of these girls that would be living here, these 6 girls, would any of them have cars at all?
No, they will not.
And how would they get from here to someplace else if they wanted to go into the town or someplace else? What a mode of transportation is provided for them?
Well, Maryville will have a small minivan to transport them, but the reason we wanted, and like this location is, it's walking distance to certain things in Bartlett. They can walk to, if they get a job at Aldi's or someplace in the community, they can walk, or they can go to the train station. We will work with them how to catch the train, and it's close to the train station.
So is that the convenience that this site offers to you?
Very much so, yes.
Okay, and the average duration, the average stay that any girl would have once she comes into this particular building, what's the average stay that they have?
It can be a possibility of 9 to maybe 18 months.
Okay.
Because we will be working with DHS to move them out into there.
Would there be any on-site schooling that would be taking place at this building?
No, they will go off-site to school.
And if they go off-site to school, how would they be transported from here to the school?
Buses, school bus.
I have no further questions of Ms. Smith. I would like to call now, thanks very much. I would like to call now Mr. Sylvester Kerwin, who's an MAI appraiser. Attached to all of the materials that we have furnished is the curriculum vitae, or the resume of Mr. Kerwin's background. He's been a MAI appraiser in the state of Illinois for 45 years. He's appeared before a number of different village boards and city agencies. If you want, I can go through all of the questions concerning his background and have him explain that, or if you'll accept him as an MAI appraiser, then that's fine with me.
I think that's fine.
Pardon?
I think that's fine, just to...
Great, okay. Would you please state your full name and address?
Yes, Sylvester J. Kerwin, Jr. I'm president and owner of S.J. Kerwin Associates, real estate appraisers and consultants, and I have offices located at 7765 West North Avenue in River Forest, Illinois.
Mr. Kerwin, has Maryville Academy retained you to do a land use and zoning analysis of this property, in which they want to develop a community residence for these 6 girls?
Yes, they have.
And have you inspected this property as part of your analysis and report that you did?
Yes, I have on several occasions.
Okay, and you've looked at the village board zoning codes and other building codes, is that correct?
That's also correct, yes.
Okay. As a result of the research you concluded on this matter, can you please summarize your findings? Here again, Mr. Chairman, rather than me going through a whole series of questions with Mr. Kerwin, I would like him to just speak in a narrative of all of the information that an analysis he's done, if that's acceptable to you.
That's fine.
Thank you.
So, Bud, go forward.
Essentially, good evening. My assignment was to review the proposed application for community residence and determine, see if it would comply with the findings of facts according to the Village of Bartlett's zoning ordinance. This is essentially the scope of my work, is to inspect the property and the surrounding land uses, review the zoning ordinance we mentioned, and if I may briefly, I'll describe the subject property is located along the southwest corner of Bartlett Road and Devon Avenue in the community. It consists of a relatively large parcel of land, a little more than 12 acres. It's somewhat long and narrow, if you will. I believe it has around 700 feet of street frontage along the south side of Bartlett Avenue and around 470 feet along Devon Avenue. It's improved, as you see with the prior photograph, and I might add, I prepared a report, said it, and I have photographs of the subject property, the surrounding streets, neighboring land uses, and so forth. But the land is improved with an older frame, one story, I believe it was a residential building from many years ago. It contains about 3,000 square feet. On the first floor, there is a full basement. It's unfinished, as I understand. There's about 7 parking spaces in front of the building. And then on the overall land parcel, there's another paved area that contains parking for about 21 vehicles. I believe those are used by the adjoining property owner. It's Clare Retirement Center. The property is zoned planned unit development and within unit sub-area C of that development. In the report, and it does show a little bit the long narrow there, you see to the right side of the screen along the west side of Devon Avenue. There's an area there that's designated as a storm water management easement area, and it's for water retention. That was part of the overall initial PUD back around 2002. And it's built up on all 4 sides as a berm to contain water in there. The area is not in a flood zone area according to the flood zone maps that I understand. I can, a little further, Bartlett Road is a 2-lane road running in an east-west direction, angular direction there. There's improvements, concrete curbs, sidewalks in front of the subject property, while Devon Avenue is a north-south secondary access road, similarly improved with concrete curbs and gutters. As I mentioned, it is part of the PUD zoning by the Village of Bartlett. I've gone into a little bit more of a background in my report, how this was developed, part of it, and the Clare Retirement Center was part of it there. Let's see, if I may, the adjacent, if I may just go into the adjacent land uses. To the west is the Clare Oaks Continuing Retirement Center community. They're at 825 Clarion Drive. And this is a non-for-profit organization that's on about a 44-acre campus. And it was approved and developed in 2002. The subject, as I said, is part of the 12 acres at the end of the project. This senior retirement community provides assisted living as well as healthcare services for living memory report services, long-term care, and it also, according to their information, transitional rehabilitation services. To the north and across Bartlett Road and across the Chicago-Milwaukee-St. Paul Railroad right-of-way, as you probably know, is the Bartlett Hills Golf Club. This club was developed in the early 1920s and later on purchased by the village in 1978. I believe it's 18 holes on over 100 acres of land. There's a renovated clubhouse facility that provides for weddings, and there's a grill room and so forth like there, and they have a large parking area. This land is a parcel is owned P1 public lands. And then to the east of the subject property along the southeast corner of Bartlett and Devon at 601 West Bartlett is the Village Church of Bartlett. This non-denomination church is located on a double corner, 5-acre parcel, a little bit more, and that's frontage along Bartlett, Devon, and Pond View Lane at the south end. It's been improved with a house of worship for a number of years, and it is zoned ER-1. And according to information from their website, that this house of worship reportedly provides programs in collaboration with the Bartlett Police Department for young people in relationship trying to work with drug addiction programs. And lastly, to the south is the Ponds of Old Bartlett subdivision, the Williams Wood subdivision, and these subdivisions are single-family homes. They're developed in the early 1970s and 80s. Price ranges that I checked there, $210,000 back in 2012 to more recent $425,000 for those homes. As I said, the subdivisions are zoned SR-3. And then that's it. I can go into existing group homes, or if anyone has questions.
Let me ask you,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Kerwin, a minute ago you
Yes.
referred to these easements, and you talked about that water maintenance agreement just to the south of where we're talking about.
Yes.
Is that something that would be required to be kept and adhered to by the Maryville Academy?
Yes, according to my research in the zoning ordinance, and that part of that subdivision, the PUD, that was a requirement that be maintained by, well, at that time, the sisters that own it now, and
Right.
eventually they.
In Caroline Road, that's also right in there, that's now being dedicated as a permanent easement for that road,
Yes,
is that
that's
right?
along the south end of the parcel.
Okay, and looking at that slide up on the screen, it shows this other parking lot, which is part of the, it's part of our parcel.
Yes.
But it is used by the Oaks, or the Clare Oaks, is that correct?
That is my understanding. They have arrangements for the staff that works at the Oaks there, that they can park there on that there.
And that's going to be continued to be allowed to be used by Clare Oaks, too?
Yes, that's also my understanding. That would continue.
So other than those recorded easements that you just talked about there, did you have a chance to look at the Village of Bartlett's 2007 West Bartlett Road Corridor Plan?
Yes, I have.
And when you reviewed that, did you determine what the plan is? And it's my understanding that's the latest plan that the Village of Bartlett has for the uses along Bartlett Road.
Yes.
And that plan, how does it designate the area that we're talking about here tonight?
I did have an opportunity to look at that, and it's got a number of pages, 40, 50 pages, if I recall, in the plan. But in summary, I can refer to page 15, and I brought it here, where the summary of future land use is really to the west of Route 59 and on into downtown Bartlett there. The last bullet point, the south side of West Bartlett Road will primarily remain the same as existing land uses, with the exception of some new residential uses or reuses. That's one of the last bullet points in there. It appeared, from my review of it, that most of the development west of Route 59 is for higher density, commercial, business, office, some retail, if they come. I noticed there's a newer development, Norton Homes, is off of the northwest corner at Bartlett and Route 59 there. I can go into how the other end of this. Sure.
That's fine. And you've done it, is this a site, in your opinion, based upon your background and your inspection of the property, is this site here a site that would be available or better used for some type of commercial development?
After reviewing the plan and driving the area and looking at the various land uses along Bartlett Road to the east and to the west, my conclusion is that no, this would not be ideal for a commercial retail development for a number of reasons. It's got narrow road frontage with Bartlett Road right at that point. The topography increases in its grade elevation as you go to the west from Devon. It's a long, narrow part, but probably even more importantly, any future development has got to work with that retention storm district at the south end of our property there. Because I believe, in reading the ordinance there, that was put there also to help the adjoining property to the west, the Oaks Retirement. So that could be very costly. Also, because of the frontage, but I look back or considered the times that are uncertain right now for future development with respect to commercial retail office, because there is usually an abundant supply of retail space. Most retailers, to have something of adequate size to make it attractive and developable, would want to be located along like Route 59, which has greater traffic, more space they can go in there. The other reason I'm saying is that there's been a change since COVID with fewer office needs and people working at home and not going into the office as much. We have an abundance or an oversupply at the present time. And then that also goes with online shopping, with retail. That's where a lot of people are using that. So
The use just to the west of us is called the Oaks, is that correct?
yes,
And that's a residential community for seniors, and it has
Yes.
independent living and assisted living, is that correct?
yes, that's correct.
And just to the west of that is the Regency development, is that correct?
Yes, that development, then you have the Regency residential subdivision.
Right. And then going east of us is the church, is that correct?
We have the churches that are located on the southeast corner, and then following east of that is all single-family or residential properties.
I know you've reviewed all of this and you've told all us about your findings. Based on all of the research that you've done and the report that you've prepared, have you come to a conclusion as to whether or not this proposed use of an existing structure that would only involve interior renovation that would accommodate 6 girls ages 18 to 21, do you have an opinion, or what is your opinion as to whether or not that particular use at this location, would that cause any type of an adverse impact on the value of the surrounding properties next to this property?
I'll start at the back, and no, it would not have any adverse impact upon the general welfare or surrounding property prices. If I might add, how I usually look at these, when somebody comes up for a proposed use of type, I try to go find another similar use in the same community or nearby and so forth. And I look at those as they are also related to, we're looking for a community residence. They're also identified as group homes. And according to the zoning ordinance of the Village of Bartlett, there were no other community residents covered within 1,200 feet of the subject property proposed, according to the zoning ordinance. However, I found 2 properties that provide similar programs for children, including the applicant's existing facility. I thought that was most logical. Maryville Academy, located to the west of the subject property. They refer to that as the Eisenberg campus. But the other, I found Little City Foundation in nearby Palatine, Illinois. Also, I did consider, as I mentioned earlier, Clare Oaks at Bartlett, which is just directly to the west of us, provides senior retirement community, including many healthcare service, but also with some transitional rehabilitation services. These properties were considered to see if there's any adverse impact upon surrounding properties. First of all, Maryville, which is closest, and that's located a little more than 4,000 feet by my calculation from plat maps from the subject property. And that's been providing programs for women between the ages of 13 to 20 years of age at the above campus since the early 1990s, as I understand. They provide home and therapeutic care for girls and young women. And that property is in a P1 public land zoning district according to the village map. There's, as we mentioned, there's single-family subdivisions right next to Maryville's property, and recent sale prices have ranged from $342,000 to $650,000. That's the Regency Oaks and also Park Place West subdivision. Now, the other area of property that I examined was Little City Foundation at 1760 Algonquin Road in Palatine. This non-for-profit organization, they have been at that location or this location for more than 60 years and provide fully assisted programs for children, adults, autism, and other intellectual development disabilities. I had the opportunity to provide my appraisal services back in June of 2012, 12 years ago, when Little City Foundation was replacing several of the homes there. And they built 3 new homes with 8 children per home. There's currently 9 group homes on that property. And this development adjoins residential subdivisions in Inverness and South Barrington. In my examination, I found no adverse impact to property prices in those subdivisions.
Now, Mr. Kerwin, based upon your review of all of the materials that you've looked at, and based upon your background and having reviewed this proposed use, have you an opinion as to whether or not this proposed use would be compatible with the existing uses in the surrounding area?
Yes, after giving consideration to all these factors and the findings of facts according to zoning ordinance, I concluded with that the proposed special use for the location and establishment of a community residence and or group home for 6 young women between the ages of 18 and 21 within the existing 1-story residence containing around 3,000 square feet along the corner parcel on about 12.739 acres would be remodeled on the interior only, as I understand, for the occupancy maybe of 6 to maybe 18 months, as we hear, will not cause any substantial injury or change in character, the welfare or value of other property within the immediate neighborhood, and would comply with the findings and facts of the Village of Bartlett zoning ordinance.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kerwin.
Okay.
I would like to call now Jerry. Before I forget, I would like to be able to ask Mr. Chairman that this report that's been furnished to the village be incorporated into, made a part of the record of the proceedings before you tonight.
Yes.
Thank you. Hi, would you please state your full name and address?
Jerry Kelly. I'm the owner and principal of MKB Architects.
And what is your
business address is 1925 North Clybourne in Chicago.
Okay, and are you familiar with the applications before the village board tonight?
I am.
And did you prepare a design for the interior renovations to be done at this project?
Yes, I did.
Could you explain to the board, looking at that diagram up on the screen now, exactly what renovations will be occurring?
Sure. It's relatively minor. As Mr. Kerwin mentioned, we believe it was constructed as a residence a while back. There are existing 5 bedrooms, and we are adding, enclosing an area to the right of the kitchen to add a 6th bedroom. There are 3 bathrooms, one which we are enlarging, and it's in the middle of the plan over to the left a little bit to be ADA accessible. Other than that, there are plans to hopefully finish the basement as added living space for the girls, not sleeping area, but recreation areas.
And is the proposed application designed, located, and proposed to be operated and maintained so that the public health, safety, and welfare will be not endangered or detrimentally affected by this proposed project?
Yes.
And does the proposed development application provide adequate parking and ingress and egress to minimize traffic congestion and hazards to the public?
Yes, it does.
Is the proposed development application been designed in full compliance with all of the laws and regulations of the Village of Bartlett, State of Illinois?
It has.
I have no further questions of this witness. Mr. Chairman and members of the board, we stand ready now to answer any questions that any of you might have concerning our project, and at the end, I would just like to make a short conclusion.
Okay. My concerns with this project is it's kind of a reversal of what we normally see before our board. We already have in place a higher density multifamily zoning, and that is high quality and very successful. And the question is, do we want to approve a lower density special use when we are very limited with other higher density areas within the village? This property right now would allow another 4-story building there for multifamily, for retirement or something along those lines. And we're being asked basically to trash the master plan that would allow that and have this special use on there. One of the items on page 33, under the site plan application, number 2, the last sentence says, by activating and rehabilitating a vacant building, the landscaping and maintenance of the property will certainly improve and bolster the property's compatibility with the adjacent land uses. I think it will tie our hands, not bolster this from the Village of Bartlett standpoint. Also on page 35, under planned unit development application number 4, the proposed uses conform to the comprehensive plan and the general planning policies of the village for this parcel. Obviously, they do not, because we're seeking to change that. And I'm not sure that that's in the best interest of Bartlett. If you look at the whole West Bartlett Road corridor, starting at the east end down by Berteau, there's multifamily in the town center area. There's multifamily here at what used to be the convent property, and that house was the caretaker's house where the Warmuses lived for a number of years. And then we also have higher buildings at 59 and West Bartlett Road with Victory Center. And I think you're asking us to give something up by not maintaining the zoning that is there right now. We would not be able to expand in the future to have compatible looks. And you're not planning to do anything with the house. I'm not sure about the curb appeal, but that's kind of besides the point. At least it's in good condition. So those are my concerns with the project.
Let me just respond, if I can, to some of them. First of all, the zoning is residential, and so what we're proposing to do is do a residential zone there. The 2007 corridor plan that the village has for this, covering this particular piece of property, shows no changes, no other proposed development uses for this property. It indicates that they would retain as the same as they are now.
Right.
And so I think in terms of it being compatible with the underlying zoning and also incompatible with your own plans that you have for this particular area, it's compatible with that plan. I think that you've heard testimony here tonight from an MAI appraiser indicating what the uses are that surround us on all sides, which are not commercial at all. And so to put a commercial strip, to put a commercial building.
That's not allowed here. We would not be putting commercial here.
Commercial is not allowed.
No.
Right. But if you're saying that it should be used for some other use other than what we're proposing, when there are no other uses on the table right now, this use is compatible and complies with all of the regulations of the Village of Bartlett with respect to all of the criteria that are required for obtaining a special use. We're meeting every one of those requirements that are set out in your code, and we're meeting and satisfying each and every one of those. I mean, to say that it can be in years to come, it could be something else, or you want more tax from the property, and therefore we shouldn't use it for what we're proposing. To me, that can be used for everything that comes before you. In our particular case here, what we're proposing is in total compliance with what's there. We can stipulate, and we would stipulate with respect to you today, and we will stipulate in any order that this is the only building that will be there. There won't be, we would stipulate there will not be any additions added to this building. This is a special use, and a special use can be drafted in such a way that it is particular, and I expect it to be drafted in such a way with this project. It would be particular to this building only, this height, this 3,000 square feet, this use, 6 girls, 18 to 21, nothing more, nothing less. And if we restrict it that way, then anytime anybody would want to do anything with this building, they would be required to come back to you and seek your approval through the same process that we're going through right now. So you can definitely limit, and this is a transitory use that we're talking about of this building. So, I mean, it can be totally restricted for what we're doing here, and it will not, there's no threat out there that if you approve this, in 2 years, we're coming back with some huge development that that will go up on that site, because that's something that can't be done. We all recognize that any type of change to what's there now and what we're proposing would require and mandate that we come back before you to seek your approval for any change.
Yes.
So I want it to be very clear that we'll agree in any order that would be given in this case to restrict exactly what we're talking about tonight and no other. I know that boards have people come before them and make a presentation about a particular project, and then they get approval and they do something different. That's not what we're proposing. We're proposing exactly what we're talking about tonight, and we would be doing nothing more to it other than what's there tonight and what's there today and what we've talked about in our proposal tonight to all of you.
No, I realize you're very meticulous in what you are proposing, and that's my comment about it is that we already have the higher density without the special use that would allow something more similar to what's on the, let's call it the campus, the old comment property right now, with multifamily, with retirement and so forth. And I think we would be tying our hands by getting rid of that and only having this small portion with the special use. I'm not sure that that's in our best interest. But let's hear, we have other people that want to speak. I'd be interested to hear more comments from the board.
This is for you guys. How long has this building been empty?
How long has it been what?
Empty. How long has it not been used?
I don't know when Clear Oak ceased using it as their sales office.
Right.
I'm guessing mid-2010.
Yeah, about as long as I've lived here, at least. So I'm not familiar, I haven't lived here long enough to be familiar with what Mike is talking about. But, I see a use for a building that's been empty and a good use. So, so that's my feeling about that. Thank you.
Question to staff, would you restate what the allowed use of this property as it exists today is?
It has a residential zoning on it right now as of tonight.
So this property was part of a development agreement, and so it's its own PD, planned development district. So each of the sub-areas has its own set of permitted uses that are allowed in each of the sub-areas. So sub-area C allowed assisted living dwellings, independent living dwellings, skilled care units, townhomes, various medical offices, consultant offices, educational institutions that are non-boarding, religious institutions, and community center and recreational buildings. So that was that each planned development in the village has its own set of uses and its own set of bulk requirements.
I have a question. Was this property, did you go to them and ask for this property, or were they seeking a buyer for this property, Clear Oaks, the nuns that own that property there?
the order that I represent, as I think Sister Kathy was trying to, it did explain very clearly, is what we're seeking, why we sought this building out when we talked to the other sisters. Oh, maybe Sister can explain it better than I can, but it's really to further our mission of what we're doing already on the Eisenberg campus. Go ahead, Sister.
I can't explain it better than Jack, but in my simple way, we went to the sisters and said, we see that this building has been here empty for some time. We have this program that we'd like to consider for this property.
So we're not even sure that the sisters were willing to even let go of that property to somebody else. If somebody were to come to them, they maybe went along with your mission, and that's why they approved the idea of this, is what I'm thinking.
Well, I think that's possible, but let me say our conversations with them, they were very happy about not only that we wanted to purchase the property from them, but the use that we wanted for. So they've been talking to us straight through. They've not mentioned any other buyers. I don't think they've solicited any other buyers. And they came to us when they decided, why don't you buy the whole thing instead of just the part that you want to buy? So
But you approached them first.
we approached them first.
For staff, when I look at this property, I see a long, skinny piece of property. The building in question is at the far north end. What happens with everything that's to the south? Does this special use have an effect on what could happen on this property in the future? And will this property, this entire strip of land, be owned by the people requesting the special use?
So if you granted this special use, again, it would be limited to the building that is on that site based on how, that would be a condition, I would assume, of approval. It would be up to them as the property owners if they're doing anything else. They would have to come in if they wanted to do something else with the site, but there's no guarantees on what that would be. It would have to come back before the village board for review if they had plans for something else.
Christie, there was a phase 2 I'm seeing in 2005 that was planned. Do we know why that was halted?
I believe it was financial constraints.
Okay, fair enough.
As Mike said, I think this is a restriction, or this could impose a restriction on what could happen on this property if it's owned by one individual or one organization. Do we lose the right to develop it without them selling it? I don't think that would be correct.
Let me just address that. I think Christie explained it too, but I just want you to understand that this is part of a planned development, and we're in sub-area C, and you're correct that sub-area C is this kind of narrow piece of property. But all we're doing is or what we're proposing to do is to develop this one little niche where this building is at. The rest of the balance of this property would always have to come, if we want, I don't care whether it's us or anybody, whoever's going to do anything with that parcel of property other than this house is going to have to come back here and apply for any type of an amendment to this existing Immaculata plan development and seek your approval for whatever it is, whatever it is. And more parking, anything, would have to come back to you in order to give their approval. You don't relinquish any control at all to this property by allowing us to have a special use for these 6 women on this particular property. You don't relinquish anything at all. And as I indicated to the chairman a little while ago, if somebody's concerned about us adding on to the building and doing something with the existing structure, we would stipulate and agree and sign any document that you want indicating that we would do nothing at all to this building than what we're presently talking about tonight. The whole purpose of this building is to allow Maryville to go forward with the mission that they have to try to care for these women and young women who have some sort of intellectual disabilities, to give them a place to get the necessary vocational training so that they can go out in this world and be productive people. The CILAs that Evelyn was talking about are what they call community living integrated facilities. They have them all over the north side. I've been involved, and even on the south side, for other charitable organizations. They're without all the suburban communities that we have. We even have some in the city. But the whole purpose of those is that you have a community integrated facility, people with disabilities who are functional and can do vocational things, live in those buildings. They go to work every day. They work at McDonald's. They work at Home Depot. They work at all kinds of other places in order to make a living so that they can support themselves and have the kind of life that we all wish for people who have that type of disability. That's what we're talking about tonight, is to give these 6 girls in this house the opportunity to have that type of vocational training in this building so that they can move on to a better life. And I think that when I took on this assignment, I was concerned and raised a lot of the questions that some of you have raised tonight. But what we're proposing and the way we restricted it and how we have now met the criteria, all of the criteria that are set out in your code for obtaining a special use, I just believe that we have a good program here, and one that does no harm to the community, to property values, doesn't do any harm in terms of other compatible uses in the neighborhood. We satisfied each and every obligation, and I think that we have satisfied it, and the findings that we have set forth all stipulate and concur with that.
I don't think anybody is questioning the noble task or the intent. My question is tying the village's hands by allowing the special use permit to downsize the capability of what goes there on the corner. The campus could certainly be expanded if something else came along with another proposed 4-story building to expand what's on the property right now. And that's my concern, is this a judicious thing for us to do to Bartlett?
Well, I
think that could happen no matter, we look at so many of these other, even like where, Hortons is, and they've got this huge plot of land out there. And if they chose not to put homes on all of it, and they say, we're only going to develop part of it, but we're gonna keep the rest of that land as ours, and we may or may not develop it in the next 5 years, it's still theirs. And they could hold us hostage. We can't touch it, it's still theirs, and it's a prime piece of property in our village, and there's not a thing we could do about it. And I don't think that's really our place necessarily to say what somebody can or can't do with their property. And, like we've said before, this is a piece of property that has sat empty, and for someplace like Maryville, where there's a very specific reason for this new use to be so close to their existing facility because of their resources, there's a very logical reason for them to be so close, to be able to use what limited resources a non-for-profit, organization has, to be able to tap into resources where if they had to move this home 15 miles away, they can't make use of those same resources in the same way. I think now you're putting undue pressure on there. I think I agree when we have someplace that has sat unused by us for so many years to now say, well, wait, maybe we might want to use it in another 10 years.
The only other point,
That we've,
the only other point I would like to make is, in response to the question you've asked, Mr. Chairman, there cannot be another type of a non-residential use put onto this property, because it's not zoned for it. So whoever would want to put any other type of a use on this property is going to require not only that they come in on this PD, but you're going to have to rezone the property in order to get that type of a use, because that type of use isn't permitted on this property. You can't put a commercial, industrial, any other type
Not
of use.
wanting,
I think he's referring to a different type of residential.
Residential.
Something more elaborate residential type of thing, that we might want to put up.
consistent with the higher density zoning that is allowed now.
So, like I said, this use, there are office uses are allowed, and there are, community residences are not currently allowed in this district. So they're asking to amend the planned unit development that was approved as Immaculata to add community residence as a special use. Right now, it's not allowed there. Right now, the residential uses that are allowed are townhomes and assisted and skilled living at higher densities, and then also office uses are permitted
Right, and,
per the current zoning.
right, skilled care units, independent living dwellings, assisted living dwellings are all permitted, and and then there are, as Christie has pointed out, you can have consultant offices, religious institutions, and more religious institutions, and community care and technical training and recreational training buildings are permitted.
So I look at the 2002 original plan, which you just mentioned, the uses that are there, which is a higher density, and I think that whole parcel at a higher density would be of a better benefit to the community than maybe trying to develop what you're not using that's in piecemeal. It seems to me you only need a half acre, and we're tying up everything else. You have no plans to develop it. I would rather see it at a higher density with what's already approved, the townhouses, if there's a doctor's office, maybe a residential assisted living apartment, something that's already approved for the entire parcel, instead of, now, will a developer come forward to look at that? I don't know. I think having the entire parcel available and on the market, if that's what the sisters want to do, is
The only thing I would,
Question.
the other point that I would like to raise in response to that is, I mean, this parcel is a large parcel, but everyone has to be recognize the fact that there is a huge water, storm sewer maintenance agreement that runs totally through this property, which is going to affect the ability to build on it. And everyone's going to be bound by that. No one's going to be able to do away with that. Every developer who comes along, or us too, has to understand that it's binding on us too, and we have to adhere to it.
Can we point that area out?
And that's if the sisters will sell to a developer that wants to do something like that. It's still their property. That's if they want to sell to that.
not if they buy it.
But if they're not going to be able to use the whole, if they're not going to be able to
We're not going to be
do
able,
what they want to do, they're not going to buy the whole thing. The sisters want them to buy the whole property. Now, if we say they can't, we don't want them to have the whole thing, they didn't want to sell them just a portion, they wanted to sell them the whole thing. So if that's not what we're going to approve, then that changes their deal.
So where are we bound with the storm water area on here that he's referring to?
Look on page 41 at the overview. You can see it.
what do you want, Matt?
retention?
The retention is, according to the staff report from 2005, that stormwater basin is 0.9 acres in size.
And the entire site is 12.7.
Right.
You know, if something like this sat empty for quite a while, at least since I've been in Bartlett, which is 20 years, and it's been empty at least half of that time, and these are the first people that are actually interested in it, I just, first of all, I can't, after walking around there, I cannot see somebody wanting to build something on that property. It's awkward. You would have to take down woods, which I'd hate to see you take down trees, and build something there. So, yeah, it just doesn't seem like it would be practical for doctors' offices, whatever, who wants to build there. You know, we have somebody who wants to do something and create something, and anyway, that's all I have to say.
Do you by chance have the size, the acreage of the conservation area?
It is 50 feet deep.
Oh, goodness, man. And it's next to a children's home.
And is the entire conservation area would be part of this?
Yes. So the original conservation area was recorded as an easement in the document. There was not a plat to go with it. So as part of their subdivision request, we were requiring them to show the easement on the plat, so we would guarantee that would show up in future searches.
Okay, so it's 50 by what?
It's 50 feet by the entire perimeter of the property line.
Yeah, it's right here. And then there's the buildings.
Called out on this document here, and it's 135.03, a little bit lighter than that, and then it runs 300.84 feet. So going east and west, it's 135.03, and then it's 300.84 feet north and south. And then that's the easement area. But then I believe you have to, there's also the issue about what has to drain into that. There has to be additional room for drainage into that area. So I don't know the exact number, but it's about 52 or 53,000 feet. It's called out right here.
Right, which we already know is point, what I'm trying to do is get an idea of the water detention area and the conservation area, how much acreage that is of the 12.7.
It's a good portion, anyway.
Are you including the south side of the property with that?
Okay, I got it.
It's about 80,000 square feet that we have to accommodate. When you look at the exhibit here, it talks about the perimeter conservation buffer easement area which runs over here, right, just to the south of Bartlett Road. And then the area that's called out under the document called stormwater easement agreement is the other area here, which is about 52,000. So it's probably somewhere 85,000.
Two acres.
2 acres.
But I mean, as you know, when you look at it, the easement area runs all along Devon Avenue and then right back along Bartlett Road. So, and then the other area that would be open. And then we've also, as part of this, we've dedicated Caroline Road as a dedicated road from now on.
It would essentially keep the same footprint, right? Caroline Road would keep the same footprint it has now? Any other questions before we open it up to the public?
I have a question for staff. I know this is residential already, but from a public services perspective, we got water and police, fire, garbage. There's not garbage collection on West Bartlett Road at this point, but is that any concern? Any of those public services brought up as a concern?
Not that I'm aware of. That would be different than another use.
So it would just be engaging those services again, since they've been not used up until now. Okay.
Any other questions before we open it up to the public? Okay, at this point, we shall open it up to the public. If you have something to say, please make sure that you give Kim the signed document, then we don't have to swear you in. Go ahead and call.
Bob Gorski.
My name is Bob Gorski. I live at 709 Bayberry Drive in Bartlett. I am not an employee of Maryville Academy, but I am the chief financial officer of a like-minded organization headquartered in Kane County. I'm here to express my support for the petition of Maryville Academy, case number 2310. And before I get into my comments to the commission, for those residents that are here thinking that this is going to affect their property value, it's been made clear that that's not going to happen. And I can tell you that a 4-story high density would hurt our property values and also create traffic issues. So with that, let me get into my comments. Within the proposal, you can see that there's a request to provide transitional housing for up to 6 women ages 18 to 21 who are transferring from state guardianship. Maryville Academy has been in business for nearly 140 years, serving children in need. It is a part of their mission to provide protection, guidance, and support for these children. There's an existing facility at 941 West Bartlett Road, and that's been there for 30-plus years. Now they're asking for permission to utilize the property at 775 West Bartlett Road. This is not even 1 mile from their current location. The aforementioned young women that would temporarily reside at the location have intellectual and behavioral health issues. My organization serves a very similar population. If you're not familiar with the system, children's services for this population ends at age 18. If you think about your own children turning 18, at least they have options. They can go to college, they can get meaningful employment, or even remain living at home with their parents. If you're under the guardianship of the state, you don't have these options. There is no place to go. At this age, these young women are so vulnerable and have no one to turn to. This is a societal issue that I'm sure is going to be put on full display here tonight. I am convinced that this is more a lack of understanding of the behavioral health issues. The professionals at Maryville Academy understand that by teaching life skills, there's an opportunity for these women to live a fulfilling life of finding affordable housing, potentially even securing employment. The alternative for these women is homelessness. With that, there's a possibility of having to resort to things like sex, drugs, and/or alcohol as a way of navigating life. There will be 24-hour staffing in this facility. You've heard that. Also, I can attest to the fact that maintenance on this building will be held to a higher standard than anything that you or I currently face. Because Maryville Academy is funded by the state of Illinois and others, these funders will conduct routine inspections of the property. Corrective action plans are issued for the slightest of infractions. My organization manages 38 group homes in Kane County and Kendall County, so I'm well aware of these types of corrective action plans. A state fire marshal inspection is also required annually for this building. I can tell you that lawns will be mowed, driveways will be plowed, and utility bills will be paid. These are not optional, like perhaps some of our neighbors might think. We all agree that Bartlett is a great place to live. It is a welcoming town with a great sense of community. Bartlett has coincidentally initiated a new branding campaign. The adopted slogan for this campaign is, "You belong in Bartlett." I would hate to have for us to put an asterisk on that and say, except if you have intellectual or health issues. Thank you.
Thank you.
Glenn Stanko.
Good evening. My name is Glenn Stanko. I live at 759 Woodland Court in Bartlett. I live in one of the cottages in the Oaks development. I got the major question answered that I had when I came here tonight, and that's how much land is being sold to Maryville. Couldn't tell from the packet exactly, but now I know it's all of the 12.739 acres. My personal view is that if this building were to be used as contemplated, it would be fine, buffered by some yard on every side. But I think I have concerns about Maryville taking control of the whole 7.39 acres. And I think people at the Oaks would be shocked by that, and maybe some of the people who live on Barberry and even on South Devon, south of Carillon Drive, would be shocked to know that Maryville may take control over this entire tract of property. I think the perception might be that it would end up someday like the current Maryville property. I haven't driven back there to see it. I've heard from some people. I know there's some group homes. I've heard there's a fair number of police calls back there. Whether that's a valid perception or not, I don't know. But I just think it would be better if it was limited to a very small tract of land where the house sits. I've always heard, and everybody in the Oaks believes, that the ground lease that the Oaks sits on extends to the entire campus. So maybe somebody can answer the question, what happened to the ground lease? Does it not cover this area that's being sold to, or that would be sold to Maryville? Again, there's supposed to be a 99-year ground lease. The parking lot, I guess somebody can say that that big parking lot will be able to be used in the future by Oaks employees. And a lot of cars park there, and the Oaks transportation bus parks there. But what would assure that? Once Maryville takes the property, there's no assurance they would continue to let the Oaks use that parking lot. And if the Oaks couldn't use that parking lot, parking would be a disaster at the Oaks. Carillon Drive. Again, my perception is that Carillon Drive is snow plowed in the wintertime, that the Oaks takes care of that. I don't know for sure. I haven't been there that long. That's my perception. Well, what happens to that part of Carillon Drive that runs through this rectangular area that extends all the way down to the houses on Barberry Court? Who's responsible for plowing that in the wintertime? Who's responsible for other maintenance? We even talk about, I've heard talk about Subarea C, and I had a heck of a time trying to figure out where Subarea C was on the maps because it was hard to tell from a download, but Subarea C is still a large tract of land. I'd like to know how many acres are in Subarea C. It'd be nice if somebody could answer that question. It looks to me like it's more than half of the 12.739 acres. So again, I sympathize with the use is proposed for this house. I think that would be a good use, but I think to throw in this large tract of land along with it isn't in the best interest of the people who live at the Oaks. I can't figure out why the not-for-profit corporation who owns the Oaks isn't here. I don't know how much they know about this. I don't know if the sisters have told them about it or not. I'm surprised that they haven't been in the loop. Maybe they have, and we just don't know about it. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Brian Pruse.
Hi, my name is Brian Press, 226 South Devon. So I had some compliance concerns about the selection of the property for multi-living space. On the findings of fact number 2, off-street parking, there really is no off-street parking for that residence. If you look at, there's no parking on Bartlett, and Devon is a single lane. I live on Devon, I'm the second house in. Devon's a major cut-through street, and I didn't really see any off-street parking. I know it was mentioned they won't have cars, but my concern was, growth and things in the future. 3, can you go to the south view picture? That was kind of the best way to see it. So the parking lot sits right in front. There are 7 spaces in that parking lot, but it's really not 7 spaces. They have 1 handicap spot. It is a regular parking spot with just a handicap sign in front. It does not have the egress like a normal handicap parking spot has. The other concern I have, it wasn't shown well but if you see that space, that driveway is like 10 feet long. It's very short from coming off of Bartlett to coming in. In that short 10 feet, you cross the Bartlett path. That's not a sidewalk. It's used a lot by the people in the area walking. I walk by it every day with my dog. And if you had that, I think that view. I mean, there's not a lot of space between the Bartlett path. It's just that whole property seems. So I was just concerned for the multi-use. It's not easy to see, but the Bartlett path is covered with the snow, and you can see further up by where the right-hand turn lane sign, is that the correct way? You're actually walking 3 feet from Bartlett when you're on the path. It's just, I was concerned if it's there's vehicles going in and out a lot more frequently. I mean, I live right next to this. I do want to see improvement to the building. I'd like to see something happen. It's been sitting there for 10 years, but I'm just not sure this is going to fit well in our community, just looking at the fact finding. And the other question I had is, went back onto the maintenance of the property. My backyard is the forest of that easeway. Who's responsible for the maintenance of that? Because I have some 50-foot trees leaning towards my house that are actually on this property that have been a concern of mine. It's just a concern, and it's just, and it was mentioned multiple times that there's going to be no exterior renovations. And if you look, that driveway is in the right-hand turn lane. So if you wanted to make a right, and it's not easy to pull into that area. I think it was a residence you mentioned for someone that probably worked with, the people there before. I just don't know if it's conducive or compliant to a multi-living space. That's all I have. Thank you.
Arthur Edenhofer.
My name's Art Edenhofer. it's my backyard I look at that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. I've been there for 32 years. I had a great relationship with the nuns. They love my Christmas lights. I love them. I believe that this is going to have a huge impact on the facility that's there. If you bring up the big thing of that plot plan, those old people back there, the ambulances go back there every day. And they take that back road to get in there sometimes. I see the lights in my bedroom at night, you know? So now what? They're gonna have to cut a deal with these guys? Oh, if there's an emergency, we're gonna go on your property? And also, that's a substantial, what do you call it? The building, the structure. What if there's an emergency? Now, all of a sudden, the lot line is pushed way up. Those are like 2, 3-story buildings. How are you gonna get emergency equipment back there? So my concerns are, if there's some type of fire or emergency back there, how's the fire department gonna get back there? If you bring up the big one, their property line's almost gonna cut right up to the old building, you know? So, and also the parking, because my mother goes in and out of there. And I see out the back of my house that one parking lot, during the day it's full. Now you're gonna eliminate it. I go to see my mom, the other lots are full, okay? So where are these people gonna park? You know, I think it's poor planning, really. And I'll tell you, I have one other concern. In 32 years, when I go to work at some stuff, their current property, I see police cars going in and out. I don't know why, but that's a concern to me.
Art, what's your address?
756 Baker. I live right there. I don't live in St. Charles, I live right there.
Dan Lakin.
Good evening. My name's Dan Lake, and I live at 304 Oakmont Drive, just at the end of Bayberry and where Oakmont meet. I've been a nurse for 11 years, and I've worked with these disadvantaged young ladies before. My concern is the safety and security of the neighborhoods. I know a lot of these young ladies are on heavy psychological medications. There's a lot of behaviors. There's a lot of outbursts. My worry is it's so close to downtown Bartlett, between the ages of 18 and 21, that the temptation of going to get drunk could be there. And what type of security are these ladies being under? The staff, are they counselors or are they actual nurses able to dispense these medications and monitor the side effects, let alone the behaviors of these young ladies? With the recent things that have been going on in our neighborhood, we had almost a carjacking not less than a year ago around the other side of the neighborhood, where our residents were shot at for chasing after the offenders. My thing is, what kind of affiliation do these young ladies have with their families? Gang-related, where do they come from? Things like that, and what kind of element will be coming to visit, let alone scoping out our neighborhoods also. There's a lot of children that run around there. There's a lot of kids that use that hill during the wintertime to sled down and enjoy. And with the church right across the street, that's another thing. Now, I understand the need for this. I sympathize with it. I've worked with these young ladies. They are really disadvantaged. You know, they were thrown a bad deal. But the thing is now, we need to worry about the safety and security of not only them, but also our residents that live around there. Thank you.
That's it? Does anyone else? Go ahead. Does anyone else want to speak or have anything to say? Would you like to address some of the comments?
First of all, with respect to the man who asked the question as to why the Oaks isn't here, the Oaks is here. They gave us a letter of authorization to proceed forward with this special use. The sisters own the proprietary lease under the Oaks, and they're the ones that are selling us this property. So that's why we have authority from the Oaks, from the religious order that owns the Oaks to proceed with this today. And they're the ones that are selling us this property. With respect to the man who asked the question about the parking, and this parking that's part of the Oaks where some people park, there is a temporary easement already in effect granted to the Oaks that we would be honoring as part of this special use that would be granted. There would not be able to be another facility like this built because under your village code, you prohibit the distances that you can have a facility like this. There's a 1,200-foot restriction that requires that needs to be had and adhered to before you can have any other type of facility like this. The number of parking spaces in front of the building, which were depicted on the screen for a few minutes ago, those 7 parking spaces comply with the village code with respect to parking required for a facility such as this. With respect to the issue about the safety, as we've indicated, and as Evelyn indicated when she spoke here, who was in charge of residential zoning, the girls that would be coming here and staying here, these 6 girls, they would be going into town with people that would be with them. Some of our staff would be taking them in. If in fact they were able to get a job at a Home Depot or at any of the local grocery stores or anything like that, that I have where I live in my town, that would be just the normal thing that exists throughout the whole developmental disability world. I mean, when we have people who are functional and can have jobs, they get the jobs and then they live in this world and they make transportation back and forth. I mean, and that would be adhered to. There would probably be even transportation from Maryville, taking these women and men and women over to where they work and then picking them up and bringing back to this facility. So I think the idea that there would be a high crime incident as a result of this would be something that wouldn't be occurring. There are a number of minor points, but I won't go into all those. I think I tried to hit on the ones that were important. But as I said in the beginning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, I think what's important in here is that whenever you appear before any village authority seeking and requesting a special use, you have to look at what the standards are by the village. What are their requirements in order to get one of those? And you set them out, and you set out the criteria for those. And we have met each and every one of those criteria. I know there's a question, well, this is a 12.7 acre piece of property, and yeah, that's fine. Everybody comes up here and stands at this podium and says, yeah, we agree, the mission's a wonderful mission, but we're concerned about those other X number of acres that are left over. Well, there's constant, everybody that appears before you on asking for zoning relief or whatever type of relief is, there's a number of those cases where people who own the property aren't developing their entire site. There's always property, or not always, but a number of issues, there's always property left over that they're not developing, which they own. That's no different than what we have. In our case, we're so specific with this special use, and nothing can happen other than what we're talking about without coming back to you. You have the absolute right and authority to restrict anything that can go on this property other than what we're talking about tonight. I honestly believe, and and ask you to please review the findings that we've set forth in our application and has been through good testimony here tonight to support our special use. This is something that is really needed by Maryville to help these women out as they go out into their life. And I don't think that we're harming in any way the village of Bartlett or the surrounding property values or the surrounding uses in the neighborhood. And I would respectfully ask for your approval for this special use. And I thank you again for the time and consideration you've given to me and to others making our presentation tonight.
Could you answer one quick question for me? The question that was asked regarding the staff that would be in the homes monitoring these women, and I understand there's 2 shifts,
right,
24 hours. What level of staff, like what is that staff that is there? And I understand we've got somebody coming up.
I'll ask Evelyn to
just kind of help us understand what that staff is.
They would be considered transitional counselors that have special training to work with individuals that have intellectual disabilities. We will also have a job coach person that will also be a part of that staffing ratio to help the kids also.
Was this staff that if these women were on medications of any sort, that they are trained in?
Yes, how to,
dispensing it and any kinds of,
medication.
Results that, side effects or anything like that, that they would be trained in how to handle those types of things?
Yes, and we also will have a nurse too that will be working between the campus and the house as well.
With them?
Yes.
And, I think earlier you said if the residents wanted to have visitors, that they would not be allowed at this facility. They would have to meet at the Eisenberg.
Yes, we have a specific area for families to come and visit, much larger than.
That they're already visiting at?
Yes, because we try not to have them to visit in the home, because that's where other individuals live, so you're impeding on someone else's space, so we have them to have some private time in another location. And then a lot of them go out to eat as well.
Very good foresight.
So, yes.
Is there anything with the purchase of this land that would, from anybody purchasing any of this land that would impede these roads being traveled by emergency vehicles? No matter who's buying this land, like, if emergency services are going through the roads are still village roads or whatever, correct? They still can use them and nobody can impede their travel.
They're not publicly dedicated roads. It's a private road with ingress and egress that gives emergency access.
Okay, just clarify, thank you.
Anyone else?
Yep. Could you talk a little bit about the 99-year lease? Give us some details on that.
I don't have much other than the fact that it is a 99-year ground lease, which is owned by the nuns. And I would similar. I haven't read the 99-year lease, but similarly, when you grant a 99-year lease, the person the lessee, of course, has the benefit of all of those things. I haven't looked at the declaration of condominiums or whatever it is, but theoretically, after 99 years, it comes back to the nuns. But I don't know what it is here, but that's what. I haven't reviewed the document.
I have to say, I'm a bit dismayed that the management of Claire Oaks of Bartlett isn't here. I understand you're representing, being the buyer, you're also representing the seller, which is a little dicey, in my opinion.
I'm not representing the seller. All I said was, I have a letter of authorization from the seller authoring us to proceed forward with this application for a special use. I don't represent the seller at all.
Okay. So, there seems to be 3 parties involved in this. The current management of the Oaks. The gentleman who lives in the cottages made the comment that maybe the residents there don't know. Would they have gotten a mailing on this?
Only if they have a separate PIN number. It goes to the parcel ID numbers, so the taxpayers. It doesn't necessarily go to individual residents.
Okay, so what about the management of the Oaks?
They would have received the notice.
So I don't know, I'm just, it leaves me uneasy that the seller isn't here, and that since the Oaks is the big property right there, this could affect them, and we can't even ask them any questions.
Well, the owners of the property, which are the nuns that own Clear Oaks, I mean, they know what's going on. They've given us their letter of authority. What, the tenants that live in that building, or the whomever, whether or not they all know about it, I don't know. As you all know, there was a posting of notice on Bartlett Road, there was a posting of notice on Devon, and there was another notice posted on Caroline, I think, or one of the, right close to the residential community. So we definitely have complied with all the proper notices, and we have definitely complied with obtaining the necessary authorization from the owner of the Oaks. So we have complied fully, whether or not anybody living at the Oaks, how familiar they are with it. But I mean, whatever interest they have, of course, is subordinate to the owner of the property.
See, the Oaks, the nuns, I understand, they own the Oaks. They own the property, and then it's leased, if staff can help with that, it's leased to them, that property. So when you're saying that, I do agree with you. I don't think that I guess you're saying that because they own the property, they are more in control of the decisions that can be made with that. But I don't know. I would like to know if the management company had anything to say about this, because I do agree with that parking lot, with them using that parking lot. I drive past that property all the time, and that lot is full.
The lease, the 99-year lease has me concerned. So right now, the nuns, the sisters, are leasing the entire property to the management of the Oaks, evidently.
Correct.
Don't own it.
No, they don't own it. They're leasing it, and there was a 100 or a 99-year agreement. And now they're gonna change and allow you to get in on the 12.7 acres. How, I mean, I'm not the lawyer, but how does this affect the other leasee?
Well, as you just pointed out, the relationship between the management company and the owner of the property has whatever rights whatever arrangement they have with the people that live at the Oaks. But the people that own the Oaks, the ground underneath it, are the nuns that are selling us the property, okay? They have control over all this property. They have done a proprietary lease for a certain portion of this PD to the Oaks, but the rest of it they own. And they can, as they own it, they can do as they see fit, or allow other uses to go on the property that they own, if in fact it meets with the requirements of the village and proper notice is given, and they give their authorization to do it. So,
And they are excited to let this go to you. They approve of obviously, the uses, and it would be less care for them just to parcel off 12 acres.
yeah, I mean, they have the right.
I don't think it's an issue.
They have the right to do what they want with their property. They have a lease on part of this property.
And they're going to sell the
for
rest.
some cars, but we're honoring the lease, so that we're not taking away any parking from them.
So you're honoring that lease that management company?
Yes.
Yeah, for the parking lot. They're gonna uphold that lease so that they can.
We're gonna honor the lease, yeah.
Hey, Len, you want to come up?
I was a lawyer in my
State your name
past
again,
life.
please.
I did a lot of land
State
use.
your name again, please.
Glenn Stanko. I was a lawyer in my past life until I retired, and I did a lot of land use planning. My point is this. Well, first of all, I think I can clarify, and I've figured out a lot of this stuff since I moved to the Oaks, but Claire Oaks used to be the corporation, but then at some point in time, it got switched to the Oaks at Bartlett. So that's the current name of the not-for-profit corporation that manages and runs the Oaks. Layered on top of that, they have a management company by the name of Certus, who's assisting in that management right now. We don't even see the board of directors. We deal with Certus as residents. But we do know there's a 99-year ground lease. I've never seen it. I've always been under the impression it covered the entire campus. Maybe it doesn't, but if somebody hasn't, if Mr. George hasn't looked at that 99-year ground lease, maybe he should, because we might find out that the sisters are selling some property or proposing to sell property that is encumbered by that 99-year ground lease. Maybe they've done their homework. I don't know, but again, I think that's a major issue out there. And to say that they have a letter of authorization from the seller, well, I understand that. The seller's obviously given them the authority to proceed with these applications that have been made to the village, but they don't have a letter of authorization from the Oaks at Bartlett, who may have superior rights on at least part of this tract of land. And I don't know about a temporary easement for parking. I don't know if the sisters gave the Oaks at Bartlett or Claire Oaks previously a temporary easement for that parking lot. I would think that wouldn't have happened if the whole campus was subject to the 99-year ground lease. So I think that's critical. Let's find out how much the 99-year ground lease that the Oaks of Bartlett currently holds and that is an encumbrance on this land. Let's see to what extent it covers the entire campus, if it does, or if it doesn't. I believe it does, but again, that's just based on what I've heard. I have not ferreted it out. So those would be my points. I don't know if you've got any questions for me, but.
Can you give us any more information on that?
So that would be a private matter that the village would not be involved in. If there are any sort of private easements, any private agreements, those are private matters. They don't get reviewed by the village. They don't need to get submitted. We just need the property owner's permission.
Anyone else? Any motions?
To this discussion, in response to this last question, as I understand that the proprietary lease that council was referring to covers the Oaks and doesn't cover this piece of property at all. But I'll be glad to furnish you with information like that if you need it, so that you can have clarification of that.
So I do want to clarify, there are 5 requests before you. So there's been a lot of emphasis on the special use, but there are 5 requests. One is the amendment to the planned unit development, and that is to allow a community residence as a special use in sub-area C. They're also requesting preliminary final subdivision, a special use permit, if that amendment to the planned unit development is approved, to grant a special use permit for the community residence for the home, the existing building, a text amendment to slightly modify our definition of community residence to cover the potential residents, and then also site plan review, so the little parking lot that's part of the existing building. So those are the 5 requests before the commission today.
And do they need to be taken separately, or can it be all lumped together?
If you're going to have the same vote for all of the requests, you can do it all as one motion, but if people are going to vote differently for different requests, then it should be split up.
How do you mean differently?
To vote yes for one thing and no for something else, your vote would be different. If you're going to vote yes for everything, you would vote as one motion.
Okay.
So it's up to you if you want to break up each request or do it all as one package.
Preferences?
I'm comfortable with my vote for all of them.
To look at this, let me see.
Do it all in one, right?
All in one.
All at once?
Yes.
Make the motion.
All at once.
Subject to the findings of fact, right? Anyone? I can't make the motion.
Right.
All right, I'll make a motion on case 23-10, the Maryville request for the property at the corner of West Bartlett and Devon. Make the motion to pass on a positive recommendation based on the findings of fact and the staff information.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor at this point. We shall close the public hearing portion. It's been moved by Bob, seconded by Michelle. Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
George Koziel,
Yes.
John Miasso,
No.
Michelle Sarwaz,
Yes.
Bob Bacaro,
No.
John Batterman,
Yes.
Charlie DeVoe,
Yes?
Julie Kapdukakis,
Yes.
Mike Weirden.
No. What was the result? 5-3?
5-3.
5-3, okay. Okay, so we are passing on a positive recommendation to the village board. Stay in touch with Andrew to find out when it appears on the agenda.
Thanks again, everyone. I appreciate your help and your
Thank
time.
you for all your comments and work that you put into it.